Բարի օր, ես Աստղիկ Սարգսյանն եմ։ Մեր ձեռքը պահում ենք կարևոր եւ հետաքրքիր իրադարձությունների զարկերակին։ Հոլանդական MVRDV ընկերությունը 20,000 բնակչի համար նախատեսված քաղաք-հովիտ կկառուցի Հայաստանում։ Իմ հյուրերն են այսօր MVRDV հոլանդական ստուդիայի տնօրեն եւ ճարտարապետ Էննո Զյուիդեմը եւ նախագծի ղեկավար Էմիլի Քոշը։ Thank you for accepting the invitation.
Thank you. Thank you for your invitation.
Thank you.
I would like to first of all ask about the idea, how you conceived it. How did you come up with the idea of building a valley and out of all places in Armenia?
We really loved the valley with all the mountains and craters around it, and the rich history of the location. We really fell in love with that, and we really tried to work with those, the existing situation and the existing heritage of this location.
So it was the history and mountains?
Yeah.
More, Enno?
Yeah, sorry. Why Armenia, you asked? We think when we see that Armenia has a lot of history, but it also definitely has a future. And we saw also in this particular project and in the well-thought brief of the Dar Foundation that there was a very big spark of hope and good thought about how to develop this valley, and we really want to be contribute to that hope and to that future, and with all the history which is there.
Mm-hmm. Sounds like the project is going to cover a very wide time span. We talked about history. I know that there's going to be a medieval church on the ground where you're going to build all the rest of the valley. How are you going to make this juxtaposition of old history match with what we have in the present? And you also mentioned going into the future. How are all these going to fit together into one whole picture and mosaic?
Yeah, we really looked to the location, and we worked with the existing plots, which represent actually the history of this location. There are 10,000 plots, which we want to keep all like it is. Also, there are private plots and communal plots. And also we looked at the historical way of housing, which is the dark brick with green roofs on top, which we want to reintroduce to really create, almost like a Garden of Eden or like a Tuscany valley, which will also attract in the future ecotourism or a nice valley where people are proud of, and which really breeds this history of this location.
Enno, do you have more to say?
Yeah, please. What I think is really great, what can be an example in this valley, in this Gagarin Valley for Armenia as a whole, is to actually bring the well-being of the current population of the farmers' villages to a higher level. And for that, we really have to re-establish and perhaps rediscover, reinvent the agricultural, heritage and the agricultural new means of the future. Human-based, but at the same time located in this very nice landscape where people might think this is a very dry valley, but actually there's a lot of rainfall. You only have to catch it, have to lead it to the right places. And what is good to know that already the Dar Foundation with the Gagarin Agro cooperation they are setting up currently already is experimenting with the first crops and having harvested the first, harvest of pumpkins and all kinds of seeds and peas. So I think there's a big potential here, and we really wanted to bring that to the front, and that we can do with this agricultural development, and at the same time with making a new landscape, a landscape of the agriculture and the landscape of also hope, a landscape of education also, a landscape which can be an example for Armenia. So that's also why an innovation center and an agricultural college will be part of this whole development, and in order to, let's say, bridge the gap to actually bring the conclusions of the development, the lessons learned to Armenia as a whole.
So the city is going to have all the necessary infrastructure for that a modern city needs to function, right?
Yeah, that's right. So in this valley, with the 6 villages, and with this vast area between the mountains and the craters, in this valley there is a place and will be place for care, health care, for elderly care, for child care, for education, for good schools, which is of course really important for if you as your country wants to develop itself. So you have to give the youngest kids the best education possible, and at the same time have to we want to contribute to also the well-being of the existing population. So there will be more homes. And at the same time, there will be a better future for the existing inhabitants of the villages.
The next question might sound a little bit tactless, but I'd still like you to answer it because, like what you're describing, I presume is going to take a lot of financial investment. So how much exactly is this going to cost?
At this moment, this is difficult to say, but the first estimations are about 500 million euros. And what is important to know is that this estimation includes also public investments. We see an old train line, we see highways, we see that the infrastructure in the valley itself is not really fitting to the needs of a valley with a future, with an agricultural future. So, and also on the level of the more social and educational infrastructure, we think that, and that also the DAR Foundation and MVRDV think that it is important to have that for a part in public hands, and or at least partly publicly funded. So there, the cooperation between the private sector in this valley and the public government, like the communities, but also state government, is really important. And I'm very happy that at this moment we see upcoming an interdepartmental working group who will inform itself about the Gagarin project and think about the next steps to be taken. Either it is a special law or it is an urban coordination team, and it could also be an investment program for this area.
Another tactless question, but I still have to put it because this just begs the question. How much is an average home, an average house going to cost inside the valley? Have you done the calculations yet?
At this moment, we cannot tell you. We totally understand the curiosity. We already received the first request for people who wanted to live here.
Exactly.
To buy or rent an apartment or a house even. This is really something for the next phase. We have now, let's say, presented the vision from our side together with the DAR Foundation. And that vision has to be elaborated in a master plan, where also these aspects of costs and let's say the financial part will be a big part of it. So the feasibility also.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, I think we need to talk about the name of the project itself. Like, why call the valley after the first cosmonaut to fly into outer space?
It's the name of the biggest village, of the biggest existing village in the valley. which is Gagarin. And we use that name, Gagarin Valley, but it's also almost like symbolic or poetic. Like Gagarin, he saw this valley from the
outer space.
From space, this beautiful valley in northern Armenia, which we think can be this beautiful, Garden of Eden, visible from space. Yes.
Does this also have something to do with a pioneering element? Like this is the first one to be built here?
Yeah, for sure. I think that's an underestimated topic in development of areas. That the pioneering phase, that people get new hope. But there are always also people who think, is this really good for me? And they will feel at some point, and we certainly hope also that they will be part of all the talks in the valley and in the villages of the coming times, that they will feel that it will be their valley as well, and that valley bring them hope and well-being and a future. Which is, I think, which is a future which you, would like to see when hanging around when hanging in space and looking back to Earth and to Armenia.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, you mentioned before that the valley will have a mosaic of gardens of 10,000 species, from apple trees, I presume, to eucalyptus, or I hope, because I really like them. Does the Armenian climate support such a variety of plants? Yeah, well,
of course, this is a very nice question again. We know at this moment that after, let's say, the division of all the big plots of land into a lot of pieces, now this valley has 10,000 plots of lands, which are owned by different people, and also owned by the communities. If we want to really boost the biodiversity next to the well-being of the inhabitants of the valley, then we need to really put our focus on that. That means that it's not only plants, but perhaps also insects, flora, fauna, the whole biodiversity, the whole.
Not the biting ones, I hope. Not biting insects, I hope.
Well. I don't know. Well, at this moment here in the Netherlands, we are experimenting, but also pretty far in biological, let's say, biological means of
engineering.
Farming,
of farming in a way, but also biological. So we have pesticides, but we also have biological means like small wasps who kill the smaller, losers, etc., who eat plants. So this biological way of treating plants and agriculture can be a good base for that area, and also future oriented.
So we were really looking for a sustainable way of farming, of agriculture, with smaller scale plots, and not the and more on a biologic way with big biodiversity, and also the insects will help to do it in a sustainable way.
Mm-hmm. All right, I would like to talk a little bit more about the houses, because I think they're going to spark a huge interest. Like, you already explained in some detail what the houses are going to look like and be like, but I'm still wondering, is there going to be an element of the smart house, the ultra-modern house, where you have controls for everything and everything obeys the owner's voice? Or is it going to be more like a flashback into the past with a modest village house, green rooftops with just a beautiful view, or something maybe in between those two?
I think, first of all, there is a trend that people really would like to live in a rural area with clean air and biologic food. But on the other hand, that from the rural area, people go to the city because there's no work. So I think program-wise, we want to add all this kind of program to keep the young people there, but also to give a place for people from the city to live there. And for the houses, we really want to make it self-sufficient, the whole valley. So not per house, but as a valley, as almost like an ecosystem. So everything works together. Also, people have to trade their products, but also trade their energy. There will be agro fields which combines solar panels and, for example, apple trees, which is a really good combination to protect the trees, but also to get solar energy. So this kind of systems, it will be really self-sufficient. So it will be a valley of the future, but it's also about working together as an ecosystem.
Mm-hmm. Let me go back to the houses and your question. I think every house deserves a good internet in the future, because that's one of our lifelines. Perhaps not now in the valley, but for sure it is when this valley is also a place for citizens from the cities, for instance, hiervan, to relocate themselves. Either it is for some parts of the year or it is for the whole year.
So you're not going to cut everyone who lives in the valley from the rest of the civilization. That's not on your plan. I get it.
Not at all.
No,
it is. This valley should be synchronized with the city and the world in terms of communication and information, but at the same time has its own let's say pace when it comes to seasonal pace, when it comes to agriculture, the growing seasons, and also the not growing season, the landscape and how it will function and how it will blossom and grow over time. That's really important, and I think that this in between, we have learned this also in the last 2 years, at least in Europe, but I think also in Armenia, when Corona came over this globe, and in a lot of societies, we learned to be more at home and at the same time be very much connected. And at the end, what was nice also for a lot of people, that they could go out and that they could really enjoyed the countryside. And I think here, this could be a perfect combination of those two. So maybe you'll find the houses we have designed a little bit traditional, but the inside doesn't need to be traditional at all. Can be very modern, can be very comfortable and very connected.
One last question, if I may. Was the public transport going to be like electromobiles only?
The common transport will be for sure electric bikes, not because we are Dutch and we are used to bike, but because the valley really gives you the opportunity to bike, and with a small electric help, you can reach every place. And what we think really is, although this still has to be elaborated in the next phase, that mobility should be a combination of all means: pedestrians, bikes, electrical bikes, public transport, and cars. Mm-hmm.
How is the state mechanism? I know I promised that the last one, the previous question was going to be the last one, and I didn't keep my promise. But anyway, how did the state mechanism react to the investment? How did it feel like to work? Was there a lot of bureaucracy? Did you have a lot of difficulty, or is it going smoothly and at the pace you would prefer?
I think at this moment, the state government of Armenia really sees that these kind of projects, and especially also the Gagarin project for the Gagarin Valley, can be an example for Armenia. And I also heard ministers saying, well, we really actually want to encourage this changing project and wherever we can. At the same time, the state government has to cover and address all the public interests. Those are a lot. So I totally understand that they will bring together all the departments, all their ministries in one working group in order to come to the right next steps, which in our understanding would be an investment agreement with the investors and the DAR Foundation about the total investment package for the valley, which is needed to develop the valley.
Thank you for accepting the invitation, and the best of luck on your initiative.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you very much.
Գագարենի հովտի համահեղինակների եւ հոլանդացի ներդրողների հետ զրուցեցինք հենց Գագարենի հովիտ քաղաքի մասին։ Կհանդիպենք։